Good morning and welcome back to my channel, Living in the Light. I'm Elizabeth. If you're new here, this is my video documentation of my health transformation using the Optavia program. I am currently in the weight loss phase, which is using the 5-in-1 program. And that means that I eat 5 times a day using their fuelings, which come in my monthly Optavia box. And I have one lean and green meal. Right now, I am waiting for my coffee to brew, and then I am going to get started with my first fueling of the day. So I'd like to invite you to join me today for a what I eat in a day, along with a very exciting lean and green. I am going to make cauliflower crust pizza, and I'm going to make my own cauliflower crust. So join me today and see what trouble we can get into. Okay, welcome back to fueling number 1. I've done 2 things. I have made my coffee, so I have first cup of coffee right here, ready to go. I'm gonna drink this. I also have filled up my water bottle. This is 40 ounces. I will get this whole bottle down before I move on to fueling number 2. That is my goal. Each day seems to work pretty well. So the first thing I have in the morning is typically a bar or a cruncher, something that is sort of breakfasty. This morning it is the Frosted Cinnamon Spice Crisp bar. So it is crispy like a Rice Krispie treat, has a little bit of drizzle on the top, a little bit on the bottom. It has 110 calories, 11 grams of protein, 2.5 grams of fat. This is one of my favorites because it tastes just like a brown sugar cinnamon Pop-Tart. So this one I absolutely love. Already taken a bite, a little crispy, a little chewy. It is super delicious, great with coffee. So I'm gonna enjoy this fueling, and I will see you back here for fueling number 2. Okay, I'm gonna go over with you the making of the cauliflower crust itself. The great thing about these cauliflower crusts is you can make up several. It's super easy to make. So you make them up ahead of time, you can refrigerate them, or you can go ahead and freeze them. The recipe makes 1 crust, but I'm gonna make it twice because it is 1 serving per crust, and I think my husband would probably like to eat dinner tonight. So I'm gonna go ahead and make 2 crusts, but I'm just gonna show you the process of 1. So the ingredients that you need are raw cauliflower. The bag looks like that. It's already chopped. It is raw. It is not the frozen cauliflower because that is already pre-cooked. So buy the raw, either make it yourself, rice it, grate it yourself, or buy it already made. Egg beaters, mozzarella cheese, get the low fat part skim. It should have 6 grams or less of fat per serving, which is a 1/4 cup. And I'm gonna use some salt-free garlic and herb seasoning. Mrs. Dash is similar to this, but I'm gonna go ahead and use this. And let me explain to you how this breaks down. The cauliflower counts as 2 of your greens. The 1/4 cup of egg beaters is going to count as 1 1/3 condiments. And the Mrs. Dash, or the salt-free seasoning, is gonna count as a 1/2 of a condiment. So even though that's not quite 2, I'm gonna count that as 2 condiments. And then the cheese is going to count as 1/2 of a lean. I'm also going to weigh my ingredients. So let's talk about how to do that. I'm gonna put a bowl on the scale, and I know that a cup of raw cauliflower is going to be 3.5 ounces. So I've got a partial bag here, and I'm gonna watch my scale to get to 3.5 ounces. There we go, perfectly, 3.5. To that, I'm going to add 56 grams of part skim, low fat mozzarella cheese. So I'm gonna need to change this to grams. And then I'm gonna zero out my scale so it's at 0. And I wanna get this up to 56. 56 exactly. So there's my cheese, my cauliflower. I'm gonna put in 1/4 of a teaspoon of this garlic and herb. I got this at Walmart, and it is called no salt seasoning, Kinder's no salt seasoning, garlic and herb. They have several other ones as well. And then I'm going to add 1/4 of a cup of the egg beaters. So I got my handy dandy 1/4 cup measure. I'm gonna add that. And then I'm gonna mix this all together. Okay, so mix, mix, mix. You can see. And then I'm gonna lightly spray my parchment. I'm gonna make 2, so I'm gonna go ahead and fill that out. And I'm gonna dump the contents onto the sheet pan. And then I'm gonna spread it out. I wanna get it as thin as possible without having any holes in it. So the back of my spatula works really well. Okay, I think that one is good. It seems fairly thin. I'm gonna go ahead and make my second crust, get that patted out, and then I'll talk to you about the baking process. Okay, so I have both of my crusts all patted out, ready to go. I'm gonna pop them into a preheated 425-degree oven for 22 to 25 minutes. I'm gonna keep an eye on them. Then I'm gonna take them out. I'm gonna flip the crust over. They're pretty solid at that point because of the egg has bound everything together. You can easily flip them over, and then I'll pop them back into the oven for another about 15 minutes, and then I'll take them out to cool, set them aside. We'll have them at dinner time tonight, but I'll come back after I finish baking them and show you what they look like. Okay, so here are my cauliflower crusts. They are all baked. I flipped them over already. Baked them for another 15 minutes, 14 minutes-ish. And you can see they hold together very well. So I'm gonna just go ahead and set those on a rack to cool. And since I have a bunch of cauliflower, I think I'm gonna go ahead and just make several crusts ahead today. Now I'm also gonna kill 2 birds with 1 stone here and go ahead and make my fueling number 2, which is going to be the golden chocolate chip pancake. Okay, I'm gonna set myself up here. I'm gonna make mine as waffles. So I have my Dash Mini waffle maker heating up. I'm going to add my, I'm gonna do 1/4 cup of water, make it a little bit thinner because I'm gonna make 2 pancakes. So this is the golden chocolate chip pancake. It has 100 calories, 12 grams of protein, and 1.5 grams of fat. So I'm gonna add this into the water. I always tap out the bottom to make sure I get all of the fueling out. And I'm just gonna mix this up. Makes a fairly thin pancake batter. You can use a wire whisk if you want to. This one has chocolate chips in it, so it's gonna have little lumps in it anyway. I also like to let the batter sit for a minute just to hydrate a little bit more because sometimes it just needs a little extra hydration. So I'm gonna let it sit here for a second and then I'm gonna continue on with making the waffles. Okay, so I let it sit for a few minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and just give quick little spritz. I'm gonna put in about half of the pancake mix, make sure I get some of those chocolate chips in there. And you can see that it really does fill up the waffle maker pretty well. And I'm gonna let this cook for about 3 to 4 minutes. I'm gonna check it in about 3 minutes to see how it's doing. And if it's finished, that's great. If not, and then I'm gonna make the other one and I will show you what they look like when they are all finished. Here is fueling number 2. These are the golden chocolate chip pancakes made into waffles. They look like great little Eggo waffles. You can make these ahead of time as well, put them in the freezer, and then all you have to do is throw them in the toaster or the microwave if you want to do that. I just tend to make things fresh every day. So golden chocolate chip pancakes into a waffle. Perfect. No need for syrup or anything. The chocolate is just wonderful. Has a great amount of sweetness, a little crispy from being in the waffle maker. So I am, as you can see, I've got 2 more cauliflower crust ready to go into the oven, and I'm going to eat fueling number 2, keep making cauliflower crusts, and I will see you back here for fueling number 3, which involves a little bit of cold coffee. What could it be? Okay, time for fueling number 3. I am having the caramel macchiato shake. And this is, I don't mind this one at all. It's actually, I don't like the strawberry. I don't like the vanilla. This one actually is okay. It doesn't have a ton of flavor. So when I make it, instead of making it with water, I make it with cold coffee. So I usually set a little bit aside. This is just a little under a cup. The recipe on the package says to use a cup or 3/4 of a cup of cold water. But I like it super thick. And so I add ice to make it nice and tasty. So I put in my coffee, and then I add in the packet. This, by the way, 100 calories, 12 grams of protein, 1 gram of fat. And then I use a cup of ice. I add that in, pop on the top. I'm gonna run the blender. And you don't need to hear that, so I'm going to turn off, and then I'm going to come back and show you how thick the shake is when I'm finished. Okay, I run this until I can look through and see that there are not any big chunks of ice in there, that they're all pretty much crushed down to nothing. Try pouring it this way so you can see how truly thick this is. And that's just coffee and ice and the shake mix. You can see how incredibly thick this is. So much better with the coffee. So I'm going to enjoy this, and then I will see you back for fueling number 4, which is going to involve the air fryer and a little bit of a transformation for one of my favorite fuelings, which is one of the mashed potato fueling sauce. I'm getting ready to prepare my fueling number 4, and I am taking the sour cream and chive mashed potatoes. I'm making them into waffles, and then I'm gonna take those waffles, I'm gonna make them into tater tots. So the first step was to mix about 6 tablespoons of water. Normally they tell you to do a 1/2 cup, but when I do this, I cut back on the amount of water. Instead of cooking it on the stove or in the microwave, I just let it sit on the counter so that it can absorb the water. So it becomes super thick. So you can see in here how thick this is. This is actually only half, because half of it is already in my waffle maker. I give it a little spritz, and then I put it in, and I wait until most of the steam has stopped. It really has calmed down quite a bit. And so I'm going to remove this, and then I'm going to add the other half and let this cook. And then I will come back when I get ready to air fry them to make them into tater tots. All right, on to the next step. And all I'm gonna do is I took the pancakes, the waffles, and I cut them into 4 little pieces each. So they make 8 separate nuggets. I preheated my air fryer to 400 degrees. I'll let it preheat for about 5 minutes. I'm gonna dump these in, single layer. I'm gonna pop them back in there, and I'm gonna let this go for 6 minutes. I'm gonna pause it at about 3, give it a little shake, another 3, and then I'll show you what they look like when they're finished. Okay, 6 minutes is up. Now it's time to test them out. They come. They are definitely crunchy. See that here? They're probably super hot. I'll go ahead and take a bite just so that you can hear how crunchy they are. Hot and crunchy. I need all my condiments for dinner tonight, so I'm not going to use a condiment here. But sugar-free ketchup, Primal Kitchen sugar-free ketchup is excellent. A tablespoon is a condiment, or a tablespoon of G. Hughes barbecue sauce is also great. So those are options if you have a condiment that you can use that you're not going to use with your dinner, then go ahead and do that.
these are great, plain as they are. All right, I'll be back to show you how I'm gonna put together my pizzas for dinner tonight. Technical difficulties, completely forgot to hit record on that last video, so let me just quickly tell you what I put on here. I decided to use the marinara sauce as my condiment, so that means I could only use 2 tablespoons, which was more than enough spread around on the pizza. Then for my other green, I decided I was going to use half cherry tomatoes and half bell peppers. So I went ahead and put the cherry tomatoes on top of the marinara sauce, and then I covered that with my 1/4 cup of cheese. And then I have 1 ounce of turkey pepperoni. So between the turkey pepperoni and the cheese, that makes up the other half of the lean for my lean and green. My greens then are the tomatoes and the bell peppers. And then I decided to use part of an optional snack. I think this is only the 3rd time in 6 weeks that I've used an optional snack. And you can have 10 olives, but I just took 3 or 4 and sliced them up and put that on. So that is going to be my pizza. I'm gonna put it in the oven for 425 for about 10 minutes, and then I will show you what it looks like when I take it out. All right, 425, 15 minutes is all it took. It's nice and crispy. I'm gonna let it cool off for a few minutes, and then I'm gonna enjoy my lean and green, and I will see you back here in a little bit for the last fueling of the day. Okay, last fueling. And this is one that I haven't really mastered yet. It is the soft serve. I've tried it in the blender. I just tried it in my big food processor and ended up moving it to the small little tiny handy chopper that I've had literally for 30 years. Actually 34 years because it was a wedding gift, and our 34th wedding anniversary is this weekend. So here, it's okay. I'll definitely eat it. It is, pour it out this way. You can see it's very thick. It's supposed to be soft serve, and it's mint chocolate. So it's kind of like ice cream. I suppose I could stick it in the freezer for a little bit, but I tried something similar with another one of these a while ago, and it just didn't really come out all that great. So it's really thick, but it's cold and ice creamy, and it's summer, so hopefully it's good. But that's it for today. This is my last fueling. I'm done, and I'm gonna eat this and wind down for the end of the day, and I will see you next time for some other crazy video. We'll see what kind of trouble we can get into. I'll see you when I see you.